All right, cool. And we're back. We're back here with Brandon, who covers the Washington Wizards since 2014. And he just wrote an amazing article about the Redeem Team documentary that's currently on Netflix. Brandon, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Derek. How are you?
I'm doing great. I know we just talked about this like a few minutes ago, but I appreciated your article because I'm just happy that the Redeem Team documentary is being talked about. Like I said, like it just feels like this documentary, this time where I feel like this is the second best Olympic team of all time, and I feel like this is hasn't been talked about on mainstream. So, what made you really want to write about this documentary and about this team?
What made me really want to write about this team is that the 2008 Olympics, that was my first Olympics ever. And I think I was 8 years old. No, I was 8 9 years old around the time of the 2004 Olympics in Athens, and I didn't watch those Olympics at all. Like I wasn't aware of the loss to, I think, Argentina. I think the USA
Yeah,
lost to Argentina
yeah,
in those
in the
Olympics. So
semifinal. Yeah.
mhm. I wasn't aware of that until the '08 Olympics. I wasn't aware of the struggles the USA team has had leading up to the Beijing Olympics. And I remember going into the '08 Olympics, I did not care about any other event that summer except for basketball.
Yeah.
I didn't watch swimming. I didn't watch track and field. I didn't watch like beach volleyball. I didn't care about any of those events. Like as a 12-year-old kid, it was basketball. I did not pay any attention to any of the other events, and that's why that '08 USA team has such a like special place in my memory, because that's the first Olympic team I've ever watched on TV. And as a 12-year-old kid in 2012, like that is my era. That is the era I grew up watching. Prime Dwayne Wade, prime Kobe Bryant, prime LeBron James, and I think this goes for every sports fan as well. Like we have a special connection to the group of guys we grew up watching, and that's why we always kind of like remember them in a different way versus the eras that kind of came before our era and the era that's currently taking place right now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like for me, I was about 15 in the summer of 2008. And like you said, I'm a diehard Laker fan. We just got boat raced by the Celtics in the finals. And basketball, like for me, obviously being a diehard basketball fan, just like you, like the 2004 Olympics were kind of like what Team USA, like this, I think it was the 72 team that lost to the Soviet in that controversial game that the documentary talks about, where they put a couple seconds back on the clock. Soviet throws a Hail Mary, make a layup, they win again, they win the game, they win the gold medal. That was the team that USA team had Doug Collins on it, and famously they left their medals at a protest because they were furious and they felt like they got robbed. That's what 2004 felt for us, because 2004 was like that like scarlet letter team where it was just like, oh yeah, that team did it. That team won the bronze, and that team lost to Argentina. That team failed America. And you look at it, it was such a weird contrast, right? You had the young guns of D Wade, Melo, LeBron, and then you kind of like the aging, but they were still in their prime guys like Duncan and Allen Iverson, and you just go, oh wow, this is that's why. And you had Larry Brown coaching, and you're like, yep, that's why this team didn't win, because you're just like there was no identity. It was, and I think that's what I think what 2008 brought back to America and about Team USA basketball was just that yes, we do have the best basketball players in the world, but there was still a construction of a team concept, right? Because the '92 team, the
Yeah,
'96, and the 2000s, like you just think, hey, just who was the 12 best all stars? Okay, just throw them out there for 2 weeks, and then we'll go boat race everybody. And what 2004 reminded us was like, guys, the world has realized like how to play basketball. They have their own different genre of basketball, and it's a different style than we were used to. And we actually had to construct a team to beat the world. And so what 2008 really brought was like, yes, it was an opportunity to see LeBron James in what was about to be an insane run. We saw Kobe at the height of his power. We saw Dwayne Wade at the height of his power. And you see all these superstars and even guys like Chris Paul, Dwight Howard, where the following year you're just like, oh, these guys are superstars. Like these guys are the best at their position. And that's why I think this team gets very, and I think properly so, considered the second, if not first best Olympic team, because when you look at the roster at the top, you see like, oh, like Chris Paul is a top 10 point guard all time. Kobe's a top 10 player all time. LeBron's arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. And it hits the checkpoints where you're like, okay, from an iconic standpoint, that's where it can compete with the 92 Dream Team.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that I was kind of piggybacking what you said about how USA had to construct a team that plays together. I think Kobe mentioned this in his documentary as well. Like going into those Olympics, the world, like the way the world viewed players from the United States, they viewed them as, players who like to play one on one, players who didn't want to play as a team, who didn't want to do the dirty work. And and you look if and if you look at this 2008 Olympic team, I think every top five player in the NBA at the time was on this squad.
Yeah.
Like yeah, LeBron, D
Yeah.
Wade, Kobe, I think
Melo.
Chris Paul was finished second
Yeah.
at MVP voting that year. So you had
Yep.
like you had the best of the best in the NBA on that squad, and they put the egos to the side, and they played as a team. They played defense. They dove for loose balls. They battled on the boards. That team completely changed the way the world looked at American basketball. At
And
least in my opinion.
no, I 1,000% agree, and that's where I kind of want to get into is the impact of this old about the Redeem Team, because I think remembering what the Dream Team and what the Dream Team documentary, because obviously neither of us were alive when the Dream Team was around. So this Redeem Team was kind of like our Dream Team, right? Like you said, this is was
Mhm.
like our generations. Like this is where when we're in our 50s and 60s, we're gonna argue to our grandkids or a bunch of young kids and being like, you have no idea how dominant this team was. You do not understand how it was watching young LeBron James just absolutely just trail down block, jamming it. Young D Wade just daring guys to throw those cross court passes so he can intercept it. And then Kobe being in this peak alpha mode. And I think a lot of times, because we know how the game is today, and I actually think this 2008 Olympics was the culmination of now what we see as small ball basketball. Because if you remember how the Redeem Team ended their games, their finishing five, it was Chris Paul, Darren Williams, Kobe, LeBron, and then the choice of like, do we throw Chris Bosh? Do we go Melo, depending on what type of size? And you saw like Coach K kind of integrating small ball, because like you said, what we talked about, via email, was just about the size and the depth of the Redeem Team. It didn't have a lot of size. It didn't have a lot of dominant front line. Like if you remember the Dream Team, they had Patrick Ewing, they had Karl Malone, Charles White. I mean, these are big guys. These are legit, like, would be starting centers today. And we were just like, yeah, we have Dwight, we have Chris Bosh, and I think Tyson Chandler, and that's it.
Uh,
and that
I think we had Carlos Boozer.
and Carlos Bruiser. So like that's it. And like it was a lot of wings and it was a lot of guards, and I think that was like America's way and basically the NBA's way of saying like, hey, yeah, this small ball thing that we've been like very dismissive of, saying like, yeah, that's like a European thing. That's how, remember, because Mike D'Antoni, who originated the 7 seconds or less, came from Europe. He came from Italy, and that's the type of system he brought to the NBA. Like, I think Coach K and Team USA basketball really put their arms around. It's like, hey, this is what the next generation of basketball is. And look, out from the Warriors to now everybody runs it. It's small ball, threes and layups, and that's it.
For sure. And the way that lineup was not the lineup, the team was constructed. They almost had to construct the '08 team that way because I think in international play, most teams at the time they were not running lineups where they had two big men who you can throw the ball into. They had skilled big men who can stretch the floor, who can play that pick and pop game. And USA they couldn't have these like traditional bigs out there because they would not be able to kind of stay with the perimeter guys that these international teams are kind of putting out there. Especially a team like Spain, you got the Gasol brothers. They could post
Yeah.
up, but they could take you out to the perimeter and go by you, especially
Yeah.
Powell.
Oh yeah. And I think that's why we had such a difficult time in '08 and 12 with Spain because we actually had to try to beat everybody else because we were having problems with everybody else. And then Spain was just like, hey, we're gonna throw the Gasol brothers at you, who are two extremely skilled 7-footers, and you're just like,
Yeah.
oh man, it would have been like, oh man, it would have been really nice to have like Kevin Garnett on this team right now.
Oh
like,
yeah.
you look at it, you just go, oh man, Kevin Garnett would be perfect. Just go, hey Kevin, just go beat the crap out of Pau Gasol for 40 minutes. Just do that's it. I don't care. Talk trash. Just start talking to yourself. Be super intimidating, like you always are. And because like that's why I think Spain was so tough for us because we were just like we have to beat the world first, and then Spain was just like, hey, by the way, we're gonna zag and we're gonna throw two 7-footers at you. And you're like, oh, and that's why no lead was safe with Spain because Spain would just be like, yeah, you guys can get up 15. We're just gonna slowly wear you guys down. We're gonna get second chance opportunities. We're gonna have this 17-year-old named Ricky Rubio just dribbling circles around you, and then Rudy Fernandez is out here looking like Klay Thompson, just banging threes left and right. And you're just wait, what's happening? Are we about to lose this gold medal game? But before we get to the gold medal game, I want to talk to you about what were some of the biggest things that I took away, and I wonder if you agree with me, is how impactful Kobe was to this Redeem team. And just for the listeners know, like Kobe, everyone knows because of the passing and stuff, like he was very beloved and very iconic as a basketball player. But back in 2008, like he just won the league MVP, just took the team to the finals, and they lost to the Celtics. But I appreciate what LeBron, Wade, and a little bit Melo talk about was like kind of how isolated he was. Like Melo had that great line in the documentary where he's like, Kobe wasn't the type of guy where you go up to him and go, "Hey, what's good, Kobe? How's it going, man? How's the family?" It was like very professional, like because Kobe was like, "Hey, we're like, yeah, we're gonna have fun, but we're here to do a job." And Kobe was 24/7, 365 all basketball all the time, especially when it meant something of like winning a title or winning a gold medal. Then he was like on another level where he was just like, we have an opportunity, we got the talent, we need the right mentality because we can't cut corners, even if we are uber talented as a roster. And I think my favorite story was when it was told by LeBron and D Wade and Melo, where they went out one night, they went to the club, and they got back like at 4 or 5 in the morning. And they're walking through the hotel, and they see Kobe in the gym. And Kobe gave him a look like, yeah, yeah, y'all coming back from a night out party and having fun, and I'm in here doing work. And all of them, to their credit, by the way, they could have easily been like, man, I'm going to sleep. I don't care. Especially LeBron, because there was a legitimate argument that LeBron Kobe was a real thing at that point. And LeBron could be like, man, I'm just as good if I'm not better than you. I'm going to sleep. But they all realize it's like, hey, we have to put the work in. Like this guy just won the league MVP and he's not resting on his laurels. Like he's going in at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, putting in that work about 3-4 hours before practice, and he's doing more lifts and more running. And that was one of the that was what really stood out to me. And and I'll let you go here, like the real positive impact, because to me, out of all of Kobe's amazing accomplishments, to me, his greatest accomplishment in his career was with this Redeem team. How he was basically he reestablished himself as the best basketball player in the world, and also to help the next generation achieve their greatest and reach their potential, because they've all had career years following this Olympic run.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like that scene where like the players they went out at night in Vegas and they came back to the hotel at 5 and saw Kobe in the gym. That that reminded me of this 2008 interview that Kobe did with the Bleacher Report. I remember that in 2008 LeBron was on I think that was like his 10th straight trip to the finals, or ninth straight trip to the finals, something like that. And he made this comment that, to making your teammates better, there's more to it than just passing them the ball. And I think that his '08 Olympic run, that was the best example of that, because Kobe didn't lead that team in assists. He wasn't someone that
No.
was going out there trying to get 10 assists a game. Like he led by example. He and during practice, he wasn't trying to isolate against LeBron or D Wade. He was out
Yeah.
there trying to lock people down.
Yeah.
He was diving for loose balls, and that's how he made his teammates better, by setting that example. And going into the 2008 2009 season, like we saw the type of defenders LeBron and Dwayne Wade became. And I think a
Yeah.
big part of that was just being around Kobe every single day that summer. And like we see Kobe as this beloved figure now, but for like fans who weren't following basketball in 2007 2008, like Kobe was not a beloved figure at the time. Outside of,
Absolutely not.
I mean, like he was in LA, but like I'm a Wizards
Yeah.
fan, but there weren't a lot of, from what I remember at the time, there weren't a lot of Kobe Bryant fans in the DMV area. Like
No,
most people
like
viewed him as a,
a jerk. The PG. So
yeah,
like
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
yeah, like so like I live in New York, and obviously I'm a Lakers fan and a huge Kobe fan. And I'm telling you right now, and this is where like the Kobe fans have a real gripe with like LeBron fans, because in 2000, from like '04 to 2008, like it was you had to pick a side. There was no
Oh
there was
yeah,
no like, oh,
yeah.
I like Kobe. It was you love Kobe or you hate Kobe, and there ain't no there's no
Oh
and the
yeah.
sides are very you pick a side. And for me, it was war in the cafeterias. It was war in practice. It was war on the bus. It was legit battle scars made where you're just like, man, I would argue with people and they were like, man, Tracy McGrady would have won the same amount of races. You're like, are you serious? Like, these are the arguments that I had embedded in me. So, like, in 2008, that's what I'm saying. Like, obviously with the tragic passing and everything, it's awesome that it turned into he's now like a beloved figure. But man, from like '04 to '08, he was hated. He was
Oh
either
yeah, he was
loved
hated
or
for
he was
sure.
hated. It was no in between. And by the way, it wasn't just with fans, it was with players too. Because as Melo
Oh yeah.
said, like he wasn't like lovey dovey. He wasn't this guy that was like, oh hey, let's go hang out. Like you like in all seriousness, like when the banana boat crew, when that happened, it made me laugh because I'm like, Kobe would never be caught dead in that. It did not matter how close of a person you were. Like he could have thought you were his closest friend in the world. When it came to basketball, you were as good as dead to him because he
Oh
wanted to
yeah.
win at all costs.
And we saw that with their first game in Beijing against Spain. Like he
Yeah.
ran through Pau Gasol. Like we like
And the,
who does that? like,
his
like that
teammates,
is his teammate. They
LeBron's
just got to
like,
the finals.
LeBron's like, get the man, stop playing with us, stop fronting, man. That's your teammate. You're not gonna do that. Kobe's like, watch me. and in the front literally just trucked him. And they were like, "Oh my god, this guy's serious. Maybe a little, he's very crazy, man." And I just love in the interview, Powell was just like, "Yeah, that's Kobe." He's like, literally, like, "Yeah, that's him. That's him." I like Powell was just like, "Man, you think that was bad? You should have seen him in a practice." He was like, he goes, "Him trucking me, that's like a normal Tuesday practice." He's like, "That's Kobe, man." And so I think the positive impact. In case people don't know, obviously I think Kobe was the best player on the Redeem team. I think people would just argue because like LeBron already made it to a finals. He was at like he was in. I don't know how you felt, Brandon, but like rewatching some of those clips and some of those highlights, you're just like, oh my god, like LeBron was like a legit alien. The way he moved and the way like how high it was so effortless. Like he would just be like he would let like Bronson Arroyo go past him. He's like, "Yeah, go ahead, go try it. I'm gonna smack this off the backboard because I'm bored right now and I want to see if I can get this chased out block." Like you see this and you're just like, "Oh my god!" Like it was the same thing how I felt like when during the Last Dance when you watch like young Michael and you're like, "Oh, I get it. I get why people were just like, yeah,
Yeah.
this dude was actually like." You watch him, you're like, "Yeah, the guy literally looks like he's levitating. Like he's when he jumps, he's like levitating over people." And it was the same thing with LeBron. When you look at him and you just go, "Oh, I forgot," because we get so conscious that we've now hit the old LeBron stage. And you sit there and you're like, he's like barely getting up off the ground. Like he's still dunking and all, but like when you watch young LeBron, you're like, wow, Jesus Christ. But
Yeah,
the
like young,
impact
like
Kobe, yeah, go ahead.
I'll say like young LeBron, he got off the ground like so quickly. It was, he'll be
It
like
was
running, he's like running full speed, and all of a sudden he's like up in the air, get like pinning a shot against the backboard. I'm just like, what?
yeah, yeah,
Like LeBron
yeah.
now, like LeBron, like 37-year-old LeBron, he still gets up, but it takes time for him to like
It,
go
exactly. Yeah.
down then go
Like
up.
he like you can see him like he has to like gain a head of steam to get going. Young LeBron was just like literally flat footed, stand still, like I can get up right now. I can touch the top of the backboard. It
Yeah,
was
it was
so insane.
ridiculous. It was
It was insane.
ridiculous.
It was insane. But but I also want to talk about an underrated guy, and I call this like the Charles Barkley because people forget in '92 Charles Barkley actually led the Dream Team in points. Like people forget about that. People think like, oh, Michael must have led the team in score. No, it was Charles Barkley. And I guarantee you, to our listeners, if we did a poll test right now and we asked who led the Redeem Team in scoring, the guy who would get named would be fourth, I think, considerably, but who actually led the Redeem Team, it was Dwayne Wade. And I actually appreciated what Dwayne said in the documentary was, and I did not, I don't know about you, Brandon. I was stunned where when he divulged that like he wasn't a guarantee. Like Dwayne Wade was not like one of the guys like you penciled in ink where he's like, yeah, this guy's going to be on the team. Like Colangelo actually made him try out, which is like
That's
insane.
crazy.
It's
That's
it's
yeah,
insane.
and this is like, and this was 2 years after he led that Miami Heat team
It's
to a
insane.
championship, being down 0-2 to Dallas, and they were in
Finals
game three. They
MVP.
were yeah, and game three of that series, they were down 13 with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Like they were in serious danger of going down
Yeah.
3-0, and he let
Oh
them
yeah.
back. And it
Yeah. He
and this is
carried them.
amazing how like yeah, and it's amazing how like that Dwayne Wade was not was not a lock to make that U.S. Olympic team. That is
It,
insane.
it's insane, and I love I love Melo's response because Melo's response was like he saw Dwayne and he had the ball head and he wore number 9 because that was the number
Yeah,
Michael wore for the Dream Team. And Melo is like, oh, so you're on that type of time, like and Dwayne he got back to what we remember, like what you said in that '06 final because he and and this is the gross part. Like he didn't start. He came off the bench. He came
That's
off the bench
crazy.
for that redeem team. Like he came off the bench. No wonder every time Dwayne came into the game, he was just like, I'm gonna kill everybody. He's like, y'all ain't gonna get this ball past half court. He's like, if you dare throw a cross court pass, I'm picking it off. He goes, and I'm gonna shoot it every time. I'm attacking the rim every time. I'm gonna shoot it every time. And what I keep forgetting, and it's always like what we talked about with LeBron. It's always a great reminder where we get to see some of our favorite players or some of our iconic players of our generation play in their prime. And it reminds you like how freaky and how athletic a young Dwayne Wade was before like his knee surgeries and age got to him. Because when you saw like he was truly like the Flash. Like he was just like a zip zap, a gnat to the basket, full court. It was insane to watch. It was insane. And I was just like, but like when Colangelo was like, "Hey, Dwayne, can you come to Chicago to try out for the Olympic team?" I was like, what? I was like, you want to piss him off before you do this? Like, that's insane, man. Like that's insane. Like you said, a top five player. Yeah, he's had some injury, but like you said, 2 years ago he just won the title. 2 years ago he won the title, and then now you're just like, hey, by the way, can you try out? We want to make sure you're okay, that that you can still ball and be on this Olympic team. Was insane. It was absolutely stunning to
It was insane. And like, and as if you're like the opposing team in international competition, just think about how intimidating that is. Like you have to deal with Kobe Bryant in the lineup, and then
me.
once Kobe checks out, you have to deal with Dwayne Wade. It's like, what do you do? Like, what do you do?
it's it's when whenever you play basketball, right, for an organized team, and like the best players or the guy, like you get the unfortunate assignment, like you get the team's best player, but then when you hear the buzzer sound and then the sub comes in, you take a sigh of relief. You're like, oh, thank God. Whoo, got look, whoo. All right, coach. I'm gonna call 5 sets for me, 5 straight plays. I'm gonna score. And could you imagine those guys on the Olympics when they're dealing with Kobe's pissed off and he's hounding you 94 feet, and you're like, you hear the buzzer and Kobe walks to your bench, you're like, whoo, oh man, I can breathe a little bit. And all of a sudden you look and it's Dwayne Wade, and you're like, coach, I tweaked my hamstring, man. Get me out. Get me out. I need a break. Cause like, man, that is hell, man. That is
Yeah,
hell.
and there will be stretches where both of them will be on the court at the same time. Imagine as a
Yeah.
point guard or two guard trying to bring the ball up against him. I was like, nah,
Whoo!
no,
Could you,
no, I'm out.
man? Could you imagine when if you're a guard and you're playing and you're, during the '08 Redeem team, and you got Chris Paul, Kobe, and Dwayne Wade in their defensive primes? You're just like, hey, Gasol, just dribble the ball up. Hey, Biggs, hey, Luis Scola, dribbling the ball up. I'm not dealing with this. I'm not dealing. And they're full court pressuring me. No, I'm not dealing with this. You bring it up. You bring it up. I'm not dealing with this. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? That's not fair. That's not fair. But what I want to get into now. So obviously, through I think all basketball pundits, the '92 Dream Team is considered the greatest Olympic basketball team of all time. But I've always thought that it was very close between the '08 and the '92 Dream Team. But Brandon, you say that actually the argument should be who should be second between the '08 Olympic team and the 2012 Olympic team that won the gold in London. So I'm going to give you the platform. You go first because you're the guest. So make your case why you think the 2012 Olympic team is better than the '08.
Um, before I go into my argument, I just want to bring up what Jerry Colangelo said going into that
Yes.
2012 Olympics. He believed that squad had more depth and more experience, which I can kind of see because that would 2012 would have been LeBron's third Olympics. That would have been
Yep.
Kobe's second. Chris Paul's second, and Darren
Kevin
Williams
Durant's
second
first.
Olympics. So that team
Yeah,
and Kevin Durant's first. So that
yeah,
team does have more experience, and they do have more youth on that team.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would
That
still
was
go
yeah.
with
No, because that's what I was gonna say. When you brought this up, that was the first thing that really stuck out to me was how young that 2012. Because just for our listeners, on the bench was Russell Westbrook and James Harden. I don't know, two of the 75 greatest basketball players of all time, and two guys who won league MVPs and scoring titles, coming off your bench at the ages of 22 and 21 years of age. By the way, and just so for our listeners, Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russ just came off of a finals appearance where they lost to LeBron and Dwayne Wade in the finals for their first title. So this was a very this is where I kind of think this was the peak of our Olympic team from the standpoint of there will be no more, like, from a generational standpoint, we will look back and be like, wait, you had Russell Westbrook and James Harden coming off your bench. Wait, you had a starting lineup of Kevin Durant, Kobe, and LeBron, where the brain, where people are gonna go and be like, that doesn't make sense. Like,
yeah,
how did all these guys fit in one time period? But go ahead.
yeah, and that's kind of the difference between the Olympics back then and now. Like now, like the top five players in NBA don't play for Team USA. Like
Yes.
that's the main difference between now and back then. But yeah, going back to the debate, I would still pick the '08 team over the 2012 team
Okay.
just for these two reasons alone. That '08 team, they were together longer. I think going into
Mhm.
that 2008 Olympics, they played together for at least 2 years. Like the core um of Melo, D Wade, LeBron, and Boozer, they've been together since '04.
Yeah.
And CP and Kobe, I think they joined the team in no CP joined the team in '06
In
for the FIBA
06.
World Championships.
And then Kobe joined, I think, in 08, 07, 08. Like
'07. It's
he was like the last. I think he was the last of the group of the core
yeah.
to be finalized on the roster.
Yeah, so they were together for a lot longer than the 2012 team.
Yeah.
Going into that London Olympics, there was the FIBA World Championships in 2010, and most of the guys that were on the 2012 team didn't play on that squad. The LeBron
Yeah.
didn't play, Kobe wasn't there, CP wasn't there, Melo wasn't there. So there were a good chunk of guys that never played with the young core of, you know, KD, Westbrook, Harden. Kevin Love was on that team as well. And and with that 2012 team, there are a couple of guys who haven't really tapped into or realized how good they really are. Like Russell Westbrook, but like Russell Westbrook, James Harden, they hadn't tapped into their full abilities yet as players.
No.
Whereas with the '08 team, like those guys knew how good they were. And I think
Yeah.
that's the key difference in this matchup.
Yeah. And also to Kevin. So I would say, if you would made the argument to that the 2012 team is better than the '08, the argument is Kevin Durant, where
Yeah,
he becomes the cheat code, right? Because he's 7 foot, he's a two-way player, he can play defense, he could be your rim protector. Now, at that time, he didn't develop as a rim protector because, remember, basketball was still in the, oh, you need a center, you need somebody to protect the rim. Remember, like, they had Serge Ibaka and Kendrick Perkins on that OKC team. Where looking back with 2020 hindsight, you just go, yeah, you just start Harden and you have Russ, Harden, and Kevin Durant, and you just figure it out. You just say, get two more shooters, and you just call it a day, and then you kind of count the rings. But we got to remember too, like, that wasn't the way basketball was played at that time. Um, but from the 2012, the one concern I had was their rim protection, right? Was really their size, because remember, there was no Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard's dealing with, like, his back issues and stuff. Um, So their bigs really were like Kevin Durant, Kevin Love, Tyson Chandler, and a young Anthony Davis, like rookie year Anthony Davis. And so my fear is like for that's a lot of because the way Olympic reffing is, like it could get very weird. It can get very flimsy. Like what we saw in the gold medal game, like all of a sudden LeBron and Kobe have two fouls. And like in like the first 7 minutes, you're like, wait, what? And that's what happens. Like what happens like if Kevin Durant gets two fouls in the first like
Yeah.
6 minutes because Dwight Howard's trying to put him underneath the basket. So from a depth standpoint and a wing and guard standpoint, the 2012 team is like gross. It's absolutely gross when you read the roster and you're just like, wait, we have peak LeBron James, peak Chris Paul, arguably peak Melo. You still, and then you have emerging Kevin Durant, emerging Russell Westbrook, emerging James Harden, and then you have guys like Kevin Love, Andre Iguodala, where you go like, hey, these guys are all stars, all NBA players, and you still got Darren Williams, who's an all star. So when you look at the roster, you're like, from a ball handling guard wing standpoint, the 2012 team's better. But I think what the '08 team would have done is just Dwight Howard just tried to destroy them. Dwight
Yeah.
Howard would destroy. Dwight Howard would be like, I'm just gonna get every rebound. I'm just gonna do it. Just gonna get it every
Yeah.
single rebound. Have fun, guys. Have fun, and I'm gonna try to put everybody in foul trouble. And so that's why I think, and also too, like you said, and that's a really great point you brought up was the cohesiveness that the '08 team had. And also too, I want to bring up having Jason Kidd, having a veteran, having an elder statesman veteran like Jason Kidd on the roster. I really think that gets so underutilized because he was a real adult in the room where everybody respects him. Guys, the younger guys respect him because listen, this guy carried New Jersey Nets to two finals. Later on, he was about to help contribute to a Dallas Mavericks championship. He was going to be one of the greatest point guards of all time. And guys like Kobe, who's a little older and a little more rough around the edges, he respects the hell out of Jason Kidd because he's like, I competed against you. I went up against you in the finals. I went up against you when you were in Phoenix and going up against you in the playoffs. So I know what you're made of. I know what type of toughness you have when you're going when the rubber meets the road. So that's why I think the '08 team it's still better, and I think the '08 team gives the Dream Team a run for their money. But I actually appreciated you bringing it up because I kind of was a little dismissive at first, and then when I went and looked at it, I go, hey, like when you have a guy named Kevin Durant as an X factor, like you got to be like, hey man, you got to when arguably Kevin Durant is the third best player on this team, you're like, wow, oh, okay, wow, this team is really
Yeah.
deep. So I think what I'll say. I think in a 7 game series, I think the '08 team wins. But if we're doing like kind of like what the Olympic style is, where it's basically like March Madness, where it's like one and done, I think the 2012 Olympic team is the most dangerous. Where you sit there and you go because that team could hit like 33s. That team can all
Oh
of a
yeah,
sudden
and they,
catch fire.
yeah.
No, because go ahead. What were we about to say?
I was about to say that I think they set the Olympic record for most points in the game. I think they scored like
I think against
156 or
Yeah, against Nigeria, right? I think it was
yeah,
Nigeria. I think they set the record. Yeah, so that was the thing. Like they would have the highest highs. Like if everyone played their A game, the 2012 Olympic team beats everybody. But the problem is they had such a low floor because of the lack of size that I think the dream team and the redeem team will just try to say, we're just gonna try to beat the living you know what out of you for 40 minutes.
yeah. I agree with that.
All right, so then now I want to kind of fast forward to present day. So obviously, this is a great time. It's always great to go back to memory lane, but this is something Brandon, I've always talked about, and I think is very paramount. And you kind of mentioned it earlier about the world not just caught up to us, because that's what the '04 was, where the world caught up to us saying like, "Hey, we are just as good as you in basketball." I think now the world is saying like, "Can you guys catch up? Because we're zooming past you." Because, like you said, like
Mhm.
if you took the five best players in the world, like I think three, at least three, maybe four are in the top five. And I've always asked people this. I go, if you take all the American basketball players 30 and older out of the conversation, who's in the top five outside maybe John Morant? Because if you think about it, like Giannis is
Mhm.
27, Luca is 22, 23. Joel Embiid is not 30 yet. Like you look at it and you go, oh no. And then but that's not to mention we got Victor Wembanyama knocking on our doors next year. So you
Yeah.
so you're sitting there saying like wait, what's happening? Wait, what's happening now? Wait, are we about to lose our game to the world? So I just want to talk about like what does Team USA basketball look like moving forward once the kind of like this golden era of like LeBron, KD, Steph retire or just say, hey, we can't commit to, you know, 365 days a year basketball for Team USA. Like, what does the world look like for the next 4 to 8 years?
For Team USA, it is a little bit concerning because, like you said, like if we took out LeBron, Steph, KD, like guys
Yeah,
are the top five players in the NBA aren't from the United States. Like like Giannis is from Greece, Jokic is
yep,
from Serbia,
yeah.
and Luca is from I
Slovenia,
forgot what Slovenia. And so like
Slovenia.
so
Yep.
the so yeah the USA team, they're not getting the best of the best anymore, and that's going to present issues moving forward because I don't think Kevin Durant is going to play in another Olympics
No,
after
no, I think he's
after
done.
this past one.
Yeah,
I think he's done, and he was a
yeah,
big reason why they won in 2021. So if you don't have him
yeah,
moving forward,
yeah. And that was something. And the last Olympics, I think really highlighted kind of our arrogance. But once again, we were very blessed to have Kevin Durant still locked in playing because guys like Damian Lillard, who you think like, hey, clutch player, been in big games, taking team to a Western Conference Finals, he was just flat out bad. Like he was awful, and he was kind of one of the guys you had to be like, okay, we got Damian Lillard. Okay, that's a check. We're gonna win the point guard matchup. And Damian was bad, and so that's what I'm saying. Like, yes, we have the John Morants, Anthony Edwards. You know, we still have Carl Anthony Towns, young in his prime. Like, we do have we have Zion. Like, we have guys where you can sit there and say, like, okay, we could scrape together a really good like a gold medal team. But the problem is like, what happens if Luca just goes absolutely nuclear? And what happens if Slovenia develops another great player, right? Like
yeah,
what happens? Like let's not like you said, like Giannis is from Greece. They got three other NBA players. They got the Antetokounmpo brothers with Giannis. That's four NBA players. Like that's something where you just got to realistically say it's like, hey, we're not when we roll the balls out, we're not going to be, hey, all 12 of our guys are in the NBA. Your team only has one or two. It's now turning into
mhm.
like uh they're actually equaling us not just in talent but in how many NBA players they have. And so and that's what I'm saying. Thank God, honestly, thank God thank God when Victor Wembanyama comes, thank God that golden era of French basketball is gone. Because my God, could you imagine Victor Wembanyama with Rudy Gobert, Tony Parker, Nicholas Batum, and that golden era? Gee, I
That's
would be
scary. That is
I
scary.
would be sweating. I would be like,
Yeah.
God, I'd be like, kids, somebody knock them off. Because let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if that team ever got together, and obviously it won't because of age, but gee, you thought Spain gave us problems? Jesus Christ, man. Having a front line of dealing with Rudy and Victor, Big Vic, Jesus Christ, man. That's what I'm saying. And I'm like, once again, we still got time, but you like who's going to be the bear, who's going to hold the torch, right? Because in '08 it was Kobe, in 2012 it was LeBron, and the last two it was Kevin Durant. So
Mhm.
who's going to hold the torch for Team USA, where they say, I'm the best basketball player in the world, I'm the leader of this team, I'm going to set the tone, and we're not going to lose a gold medal, right? And so I
Right.
would not be surprised if within the next 4 to 8 years we have an '04 moment where we win a bronze or we win a silver, and there's a public shaming that happens that kind of relights the fire in all of us and being like, hey, we got to do this. We can't. The world has surpassed us, and we got to regain the torch back.
Yeah, and the quickest way to kind of solve that issue for the United States is if someone like a Devin Booker, John Morant, or Jason Tatum,
Yeah,
if they become like the consensus best player in the world.
yeah,
But time will tell if they get there or not. But
that's
and like
and yeah. Go ahead.
and the question like moving forward is are can the program get guys to commit for 2, 3, 4 years at a time? I think right now, like, I think you got Tatum's been there for a bit. I think Booker's been there for a bit, but they could bring on more players
Yeah,
in order to make it a more cohesive team.
yeah, and also too, what's going to be really interesting is just now because once again, like back in '08, it was a very heavy Nike team, right? In 2012, same thing. It's a very heavy Nike team. I'm very fascinated to see how the shoe companies get involved, and you're probably listening, and being like, the shoe companies, why would they care? Because that that's a great endorsement, that's a great branding, and by the way, that would be the motivation of some of these players, where they'll go they'll go be on a world stage to promote their branding, their endorsements themselves. And so does it turn into, like you said, like does it turn into like Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, and John Moran, who are part of Nike? Do they sit there and say like, hey, we're good, we're gonna go, and then somebody like Trey Young, who's a part of Adidas, come in there and say like, why is John Moran starting over me, why am I not getting playing time? Because like that was the issue in the '04 was Larry Brown's inability and reluctantness to play the young guys, right? So
Mhm.
the way basketball is, we have a lot of guards, we have a lot of wings. Guys like Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, John Moran, Trey Youngs, even Zion, they are ball dominant guys. They have the basketball. And what Coach K really embraced and kind of taught us was like, hey, ball movement, body movement. No one, the ball doesn't stick to you, right? That's why the Warriors keep winning these titles, by the way. Because yes, Steph Curry can go out and isolate and drop 30 and 10, but to win a title, the ball has to keep moving. Other guys have to be threats on the court and on the floor. And I'm worried that because we've turned into this kind of isolation, one-on-one basketball, when it's time to when it's time to get a cohesive unit, everyone's just going to be like, Devin Booker hasn't touched the ball in 3 possessions. Devin, here's the ball, isolate, and 4 guys are just going to watch you.
And that's what hurt us in leading up to the '04 Olympics was the style of play in the NBA at the time. A lot of
Yep.
isolation basketball, and we're kind of and the league is kind of reverting back to that a little bit. Although the
Yep.
isolation now is a little bit different. Back then it was
Yeah.
more like elbow extended isos. Now it's more
Yeah.
wing top of the keys. A little different, but it's
Yeah.
still similar problem.
Yeah, no, and also too, like in like those early 2000, mid 2000 isolations, like you said, it was the high post. It was a lot of like the, hey, we're gonna throw it to like T Mac or Vince Carter or Kobe or Allen Iverson. Now it's more of high pick and roll, because the league is switching all the time. It's inviting the offense to be like, find the best switch, and then your player's gonna isolate. That's
Mm,
what it is. Where in the early and mid 2000s, it was all about like, hey, just give the ball to your best player or your best offensive player and just clear out. Like my thing is I don't know if we're gonna be. I don't know if the guys can play team basketball. That's my biggest concern. Like, yes, they can play team basketball. Like, they can pass the ball. Like, I don't think everybody is like Kobe level selfish or Allen Iverson level selfish. But it's gonna be a very hard transition because, like you said, that 04 it was Stephon Marbury and Allen Iverson as the point guards. Like those guys are two dominant ball scoring point guards. And by the way, they had every right to be, but for the betterment of the team, you had to have a Chris Paul and Jason Kidd. And that's my biggest concern is just that John Morant is a 27 game scorer. Devin Booker is a 25 game scorer. So their mentalities is the best offense is me with the ball in my hands figuring out a way to score. Like who's gonna be that kind of that old school point guard where you sit there and you go, hey, I'm gonna initiate the offense. Hey, I'm gonna get guys involved. I'm gonna direct traffic. Hey, you know what? Zion hasn't touched the ball in 6 possessions. I want to make sure he doesn't drift on me. Or hey, Jared Allen. Jared Allen's been playing his butt off, grabbing rebounds, playing defense. I'm gonna get him a lob here. Like, who's thinking like that is my biggest concern moving forward because we can't just say we're going to roll the balls out. We have more talent than you. We're just going to beat the crap out of you, and then it'll be 150 to 112, and then we'll call it a day. We just don't have that luxury anymore.
Like for sure, and we don't see a lot of like pure point guards anymore. Like guys who
Yeah,
are just there to set up the offense. We're in that era of point guards who get 25 and 10. Like we don't
yeah,
see point guards like Jason Kidd or Rajon Rondo anymore.
yeah. That's a good
I think
one.
the only pure point guard that I can think of right now who's still playing at a high level is Chris Paul. I think
Yeah,
it's just him.
yeah. No, I think Chris is the only one that's like your old school old school like pure point guard. There's some guys where I'm like I call them hybrids. Like somebody like Darius Garland is someone where you're just like when you watch Darius play, and I know he's out right now with an injury, but last season when you watched him, he was more pass first and score first. And coming out of Vanderbilt, I actually thought it was going to be the opposite. I thought he was like your prototypical, like almost a little bit like Trey, where Trey really wants to score. But Trey is such a gifted passer that you're just like he's just like, oh, if scoring's not there, okay, I can pass it. And I can be one of the best passers in basketball. With Darius is such a pass first guy. Just the team they don't have any offense outside of him. They don't have any ball creators outside of him. Now with Donovan there, we'll see. I think we'll kind of see the evolution of Darius Garland. But you're right, like guys like Scoot Henderson, Jalen Green, like these young guards that are coming, Darian Fox, the John Morants, like when you look at all these young guards coming into the league, like you said, like they're not their mentality is not let me try to get 18 and 8 or 21 and 10. They're like, I want to score 30 and maybe I'll get 6 assists. And those 6 assists are just like I'm quadruple teamed. I kicked it out to the corner and someone hit a three. Like that's the thing. Somebody's gonna have to somebody that's always the biggest thing that never gets talked about with these Olympic teams. Guys gotta leave the egos at the door. Guys always even guys like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, who have the biggest egos in the world, said we're not going to allow this. We're not going to allow our egos to jeopardize this because this is bigger than us.
Oh yeah, and I think in 08, yeah, in 08 and 2012 it was easier to do that because that Olympic disappointment was still fresh in our
Yeah.
in our minds. But in 2022, we won the past 3-4 Olympics, so that disappointment is more of a distant memory now. So it
Mm-hmm.
might not be as easy
Yeah.
to kind of leave that ego at the door.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, I really appreciate this conversation. I'm glad your article is amazing. For all of you listeners, you can catch his articles online at the Peach Basket website. Brandon, do you have anything to plug? Let the listeners know like what you're doing.
For sure. If you guys want to follow any of the Peach Basket's Wizard content, you can find us at on Twitter at Wizards Extra. It's Wizards and then XTRA, and you can also find us at the Peach Basket on Twitter as well. It's all
Brand,
one word, the Peach Basket.
yeah, Brandon does great jobs. Been covering the Wizards since 2014. Brandon, thank you so much, and take it easy.
Thank you. Take it easy. Have a good one.
You too.